What if the greatest act of love you could ever show a man is not to soothe his ego, but to challenge it to its very core? Consider the paradox that the path to his deepest devotion is not paved with constant agreement and gentle praise, but with a strength so profound it isn't afraid to hurt him, to disrupt the fragile persona he shows the world in order to meet the powerful man hiding beneath. This is not a game of manipulation or cruelty. It is a psychological truth, a secret key that unlocks a primal dynamic where a woman's unwavering standards and sovereign presence become the very catalyst for a man's transformation, forcing him to either break or become the king he was always meant to be. Welcome back to Feminine Queen, the realm where we explore the depths of power, not the shallows of influence. Today, we are venturing into territory that most will tell you to avoid. We are dissecting the art of hurting a man's ego, not to destroy him, but to awaken him. Guided by the profound wisdom of depth psychology from Carl Jung and the unshakable principles of self-mastery, you will learn why a man doesn't truly fall in love with the woman who makes him feel comfortable, but with the one whose presence demands his evolution. This is about understanding the sacred wound all men carry and having the courage to touch it, not with malice, but with the clarifying fire of your own truth. Prepare to unlearn everything you have been taught about being agreeable and accommodating. The journey of the feminine queen is not about being liked. It is about being respected to the marrow of his bones. It is about becoming a force of nature in his life, a mirror that reflects his unlived potential and a threshold he must prove himself worthy to cross. You are not the safe harbor. You are the storm that makes him a better sailor, and by the end of our time together, you will understand how this challenging, sovereign energy is what makes a man not just want you, but madly, deeply, and irrevocably love you. 1. The sacred fragility of the male ego. A man's ego is not the fortress of arrogance it appears to be. It is the most sacred and fragile mask he owns, meticulously carved from a lifetime of societal expectations and the silent, crushing demand that he must never, ever falter. Beneath this polished armor of competence and control lies a primal wound, a wound Carl Jung might identify as the warrior's shadow, the terrified, exiled part of a man that was never allowed to be weak, never allowed to be uncertain, yet secretly fears it is fundamentally unworthy unless it is constantly proving its value. When you, a feminine queen, touch this wound, you do not do it with pity or with the intent to coddle it. You challenge it with the sheer, unyielding grace of your own standards. You force him to confront the very insecurities he has spent his life burying. Your refusal to shrink when he becomes defensive, your calm presence in the face of his ego's desperate posturing, is the touch that hurts. You are not moved by his performance, and in that stillness you let his ego's reaction reveal its own profound fragility to him. This is the first, essential cut of a master surgeon, clearing the way for something real to grow. 2. The Anima, the goddess in his unconscious. Deep within the unconscious mind of every man there sleeps an eternal feminine ideal, a powerful guiding force that the great psychoanalyst Carl Jung called the Anima. This is not a simple preference for a certain hair color or personality type. It is a profound archetypal energy, an inner goddess that silently shapes his deepest yearnings and calls him toward psychological and spiritual wholeness. A feminine queen does not attempt to perform the role of his anima. She awakens it within him simply by embodying her own complete sovereignty. When he gazes at you with an almost mythical reverence, as if seeing a figure from a forgotten dream, it is because your layered, authentic and self-possessed nature is mirroring back to him the unlived, mysterious parts of his own soul. This is where your self-mastery becomes critical. You cannot control his projections, but you can absolutely master your own presence. You do not chase his admiration or contort yourself to fit the fantasy he sees. You command his respect by remaining utterly, unapologetically yourself. A woman of substance, mystery, and unshakable inner peace, whose reality is far more compelling than his fleeting dream. 3. The mirror of the soul, reflecting his unlived potential. A woman of true power does not praise a man for the trophies on his shelf or the victories he has already won. She speaks in whispers to the king he has not yet dared to become. Carl Jung believed that the most profound and lasting romantic connections are formed when a man encounters a woman who sees beyond his current achievements and gazes directly into the heart of his unrealized destiny. This is not the empty calories of flattery. This is pure psychological alchemy. When your energy, your words, or even your silence communicates the message, "I see the great man you are refusing to become," you ignite a fire of motivation and desire that no ordinary compliment could ever spark. Your gaze, steady, knowing, and unyielding, becomes a mirror reflecting his highest potential. A man can argue against logic, he can dismiss criticism, but he is psychologically powerless against the magnetic pull of a woman who recognizes his dormant throne and, by her very presence, challenges him to claim it. He feels hurt by the distance between who he is and who she sees, and that divine discontent becomes the engine of his devotion to her. 4. The paradox of presence, the art of strategic withdrawal. A feminine queen intuitively understands a fundamental law of the human psyche. Closeness without tension breeds complacency, and constant availability suffocates desire. You do not make yourself a predictable and constant fixture in his world. You become a powerful, regal force that he must rise to meet, an experience he must earn. Carl Jung taught that the Anima, the feminine soul image within a man, thrives in the realm of mystery and longing. When you strategically withdraw your energy and attention to pour it back into your own kingdom, your purpose, your passions, your peace, you are not playing a game. You are creating the sacred space required for his soul to begin to hunt for your essence. Your absence creates a vacuum that he is compelled to fill with his thoughts, his energy, and his focused intent. This is the natural law of desire. A queen does not fear that her absence will cause him to forget her. She wields it with sovereign confidence, knowing that a man's truest devotion is forged not in her constant presence, but in the moments he realizes he must cross a bridge of effort and intention to reach her again. 5. Facing the shadow, where true intimacy begins. Most women, when faced with a man's darkness, his irrational anger, his brooding silence, his unhealed wounds, will instinctively flee. They fear being consumed by it, or they feel an immediate and misguided need to fix it. A feminine queen, however, does not run. She steps gracefully to the edge of his abyss, not with the intention of leaping in to rescue him, but to stand as a fearless, sovereign witness. As Carl Jung wrote, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." You do not flinch at his vulnerability or his shadow. You meet it with the profound stillness of a monarch observing her realm. You understand that his pain is a teacher, not an enemy to be vanquished. When he finally reveals the fractured parts of himself, you do not rush in with soothing words and empty platitudes. You hold the space, allowing the discomfort to hang in the air, letting him earn your grace and respect by facing the very demons he has long denied. This is the ultimate hurt that heals, the moment he realizes your love isn't a prize for his perfection, but a reward for his courage. All right, feminine queens, thank you for being the heart of this incredible community. We wouldn't be here without your likes, comments, and shares. Keep that powerful energy flowing, and don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell, and share. I'll love you forever for it. You are the temple he seeks, but will he be worthy of entering? 6. The Alchemy of Challenge. Why men rise or fall at your threshold. A man does not fall into a state of lasting, reverent love with a woman who builds her world around his comfort. He dedicates his soul to the one who calls him to his absolute edge. The journey of individuation, as Carl Jung described it, is not a gentle stroll. It is a process that demands profound confrontation with the self. A feminine queen embodies this principle. She does not soften her standards to accommodate his weaknesses. She sharpens them into a sacred threshold, forcing him to evolve or depart. Your standards for respect, integrity, and effort are not obstacles for him to get around. They are the very path he must walk to become worthy of you. When he stumbles, when he fails to meet your expectations, you do not lower the bar to catch him. You watch in powerful silence, allowing his own pride, his own desire, and his own character to decide whether he will get up and try again, stronger this time. A true queen knows a man's love is not measured by his words, but by the tangible evidence of his willingness to grow, to strive, and to transform in her formidable presence. 7. The silent language of the sovereign woman. Words are the crude tools of those who are insecure in their power and must constantly explain, justify, and persuade. A feminine queen, however, communicates through a far more ancient and potent medium, her energy. Carl Jung's theory of the collective unconscious suggests the human psyche responds most profoundly to symbols, archetypes, and non-verbal cues, not to logical speeches. A single, knowing glance from a sovereign woman can stir ancestral memories of devotion, conquest, and the timeless dance between masculine and feminine poles. She understands that true control lies in profound restraint. She does not exhaust herself by explaining her boundaries, her expectations, or her worth. She simply moves, and her world, and the men in it, must adjust to her orbit. When a man seeks her approval or validation, she does not grant it freely with effusive praise. She lets him work to decode her silence, to earn her smile, for it is in that potent space of uncertainty that he discovers the depth of his own hunger for her respect. 8. The sacred no, the power of unapologetic boundaries. A feminine queen does not enter into negotiations about her worth, her time, or her spirit. It is a non-negotiable territory. The deep inner work of facing one's own shadow, a cornerstone of Carl Jung's philosophy, requires a fierce confrontation with what we tolerate from others. When a man crosses a clearly established boundary, a queen does not lecture, she does not scold, and she does not make threats. She simply and cleanly retreats. She withdraws her light, her warmth, and her presence, leaving him to stand alone in the cold void created by his own actions. Her no is not an emotional outburst or a rejection of him as a person. It is a calm, powerful initiation. It is a test. It communicates without a single word that access to her world is a privilege, not a right. Only those men who demonstrate the character and strength to respect her sacred boundaries will ever be granted the honor of tasting the depths of her soul. The hurt of her absence is the greatest teacher he will ever have. 9. The invitation to devotion, why men serve or stray. Carl Jung wrote that a man's highest and most noble purpose is not the accumulation of wealth or power, but the journey of serving his own soul. A feminine queen does not beg for a man's loyalty or demand his commitment. She becomes the living, breathing embodiment of his soul's highest calling. She lives her life with such an unwavering sense of purpose, such a profound connection to her own values and vision, that a man is presented with a clear and silent choice: align with her powerful trajectory and rise with her, or be left behind in the dust of his own indecision. When he falters, when his focus strays, she does not pause her life to chase him or convince him of her value. She continues her reign, her focus immovably fixed on her own empire. This is the ultimate magnetic force. Her forward momentum and self-contained fire let his own spirit decide if he will have the courage to follow and serve a mission greater than his own fleeting impulses. 10. The eternal feminine. Beyond love, into legacy. Ultimately, the feminine queen is not playing for the temporary prize of being a man's girlfriend or wife. She is operating on an archetypal level, securing her place as a legacy in his soul. She is not a temporary muse, she is an eternal archetype, etched into the very fabric of time. Carl Jung knew that the anima, the eternal feminine, is not just an image, but the life force itself. A woman who embodies this energy does not seek love, she inspires myth. Her influence is immortal. Years later, a man who has had the privilege of encountering her presence will find that she is not merely a memory. Her essence, her standards, her strength, and her belief in his potential are carried with him into every battle he faces, every triumph he achieves, and every breath he takes. She becomes the silent standard against which all others are measured, the ghost of greatness that pushes him forever forward. This is a love that transcends the personal and enters the realm of the legendary. A feminine queen does not demand reverence from a man. She commands it simply by the truth of her existence. The profound insights of Carl Jung and the timeless wisdom of self-mastery converge on a single point. The human soul bows only to that which is authentic, powerful, and true. You, my queen, are not waiting for a man to validate you or awaken you. You are the awakening itself. Your presence is the disruptive force that separates the boys from the kings, the transactional lovers from the devoted partners. The hurt you inflict upon his ego is the sacred act of breaking the shell so the real man can finally emerge.